In sales, everyone gets objections. It comes with the territory. But don't let that get you down. In today's video, we'll be discussing 5 steps to handle objections so you can close more deals. I'm Benjamin Kowalski with Freight 360, where we provide the latest transportation sales tips and training videos to help you reach your goals faster. If you're new here, make sure you go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and all of the links and details will be found in the description box below. For more free content, please be sure to add our weekly podcast, Freight 360, to your playlist. Let's jump into it. First of all, let's talk about why we get objections. You will receive an objection 100% of the time you haven't built rapport, if you haven't established a need, if your presentations are weak, and if you haven't properly qualified them. But as I mentioned earlier, this shouldn't get you down, because a genuine objection and not a blow-off or a stall is actually a buying sign, right? Objections don't mean I don't want this or can't use this. They really mean solve this problem for me, or can you clarify this? I'm going to teach you how to use a 5-step system that works every time. Step 1, repeat the objection back to them with a compliment. Hey, that's a great question. If I'm hearing you right, you only use asset-based carriers? Makes a lot of sense. A lot of shippers will utilize as many asset carriers as possible. They're predictable and can be scheduled days or weeks in advance. Now, it's important that you acknowledge the objection without actually agreeing with it. This lets them know you're listening, which helps build rapport. But it also buys you a few moments to think through your actual response. Step 2, isolate the objection. You'll accomplish this by asking an immediate follow-up question, like, hey, are there any other criteria you're using to evaluate your providers? This will help you get to their real objection. Often you'll find that their first isn't their true objection. So you may need to ask this a few times. And that's simply, hey, is there anything else, right? Step 3, empathize. Everyone suffers from a disease called terminal uniqueness, where they think their objection or situation is special or different than everybody else's, right? Yeah, well, I've been doing this for 30 years, Ben, and that may work for them, but I'm telling you, that won't work for us. Anybody ever experienced this in a prospecting call? The best way to eradicate this is to let them know that a lot of other shippers have felt the same way and said the exact same thing. So you're going to want to have a third-party story prepared for your most common objections. This sounds something like this. John, I understand. I remember years ago when we had just began working with ABC Supply, and Sally had said really almost the exact same thing to me. She goes, Ben, we only use asset-based carriers. That's been our policy for years, and it's served us well. John, what Sally came to find out was that her customers were always receiving their last-minute loads, their last-minute orders a little late, sometimes a few days later, John. And because while asset carriers are great for predictable customer orders, they don't do as well with last-minute loads or recovering same-day capacity. And occasionally using a broker was able to drastically increase Sally's service to her customers. And that's because as a broker, we're able to get them last-minute trucks much faster and at a fair market rate. Again, I'm not sure if, necessarily, John, we're a good fit to work together right now, but I think it may be worth a little more discussion. Step 4, the if-then trial close. John, if we were able to increase your on-time percentage and your service to your customers at a fair market rate, is there any other reason why you wouldn't consider working with us? Now you'll see there that's a trial close. I'm not asking for a final decision, but that doesn't necessarily mean that question isn't effective. It accomplishes two things. First, psychologically, it gets you a yes. And the more yeses you get throughout your call, the better. And secondly, it helps uncover any other underlying objections that are there. It's honestly one of my favorites. That brings us to step 5. Reestablish a need. Now, I'll use a transition here to get back to a need or want that my prospect may have. So John, how are your carriers on time percentage? How often are you having to find last minute capacity or same day capacity because of a late truck or even a missed pickup? What this does is this gets the call momentum moving forward again, right? And that's really just 99% of all sales, right? Forward momentum, keeping that moving, keeping that conversation moving towards that goal of bringing them on and turning them from a prospect into a customer. Now, start practicing these things today, and I guarantee you will close more deals and grow your business. What's your favorite objection to handle? Share it in the comments below. And remember, whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right.